just trying to see how far up could we go before we have to turn around. The road in the winter storms washed out in several places. The road is owned in two parts. Robert explained this.
So the lower 6 miles is owned by the county of Tulare, and then the next 14 miles is owned by Sequoia National Park.
So the lower 6 miles, Tulare County, the upper 6 miles, the upper 14 miles by the park. Now the problem with that is, of course, they will have different timelines for reconstructing the road. So until the lower road is fixed, the upper road can't be fixed. And
there's about $5 million worth of damage to the county section of the road, the lower portion. And the county has its handful repairing all sorts of roads that are being flooded. So we don't know when they'll fix the lower portion of this road. And the national park is saying, well, don't talk to us about fixing the upper portion washouts until the county finishes its section so that we can get equipment up. So we're thinking that we may not be able to get up to our cabin this year.
Yeah, bottom line, we are not optimistic about visiting our little cabin retreat, which makes us quite sad. Next 23 miles, very, very circuitous. Okay, here we are coming upon a sign that says road closed. So that's it. That's, as they say, the end of the road for us. We'll get out and walk and show you a little bit. Oh, it's beautiful, fresh mountain air up here. It's lovely to feel like we're almost at our cabin, even though we're not and we won't be for a while. You can see along here again, lots of dirt being disturbed and pushed off the road. A big ravine there. So when was the last time that you remember the road being disrupted like this, or the snow being so significant?
It was never closed, but it was in 1969. There were significant debris flows further up the road, but the road was never washed out like this.
Right. But you told me a story about driving up with your dad.
On 1969, on Memorial Day, we drove up and they had carved a path through the snow on both sides of the road that was about 8 feet high with snow, and they had to do that because there was an avalanche that killed the Disney worker, and they had to remove the building and the body, and so they plowed their way through the snow.
And the snow, I've seen a picture. The snow is literally 2 feet above the truck on both sides.
6 feet high.
It's just extraordinary. Here we are at the 4 mile mark. These are the mile markers on the road. And the road is still passable. So we're surmising that it's possible the break in the road does not happen till another half of a mile or so. Very, very high. So we're 3/4 of a mile up from the 4 mile marker, and we've hit the first really large road disruption. You can see here
the road bed is undermined, and once that's been scalloped out, the water will just keep undermining it until the road just collapses there.
You can see there's only asphalt on the top, and underneath everything has been scooped out by the water. So this is very dangerous and definitely not passable. Here we're coming upon the place where the road has washed out, and there's 3 cars here because they can't go any further, and they are probably walking up to some point. But let's take a closer look. So here is where the road is almost entirely washed out. You can see Robert is walking on a piece of the road that's maybe 3 feet wide, but most of it is like a precipice under which all the water has washed away all of the dirt and rock underneath. And before the retaining wall there, you can see the retaining wall right here. And all in here was filled with rock and dirt, and that has all been washed out. And then of course the road went over it. Now there's no road there at all. All of this fell down, so you can't literally get past this, even though you might be able to walk on this little tiny piece of a road here. Can't get past this, you'd have to, you know, hike over it. And then it looks like the road all the way up there is also compromised.
It's just washed out. Where
Yep.
the creek is, it's just not there.
It's just not there. So it's going to be a huge, huge reconstruction job. And
I'd say it's about 150, 175 yards at least of roadway that just has to be completely reconstructed. And the drop off here is about only about 200 feet, but there's nothing to hang on to. There are granite walls on one side and just a drop off on the other. So they're going to have to put in huge retaining walls and then build up a road base here. This is no small feat of engineering.
so we just finished a 1.8 mile walk up to the road washout. I'm very red because that 1.8 compares to 0.1 miles that I walk every day. So a very big walk for me, and it was uphill. So we wanted to report to you what we think about the conditions. Robert, why don't you start?
So we've seen pictures of the washout of the road before, and the pictures do not do justice to the scale, the lateral scale and the vertical scale of the washout. I would say that there's about 150 yards to 175 yards of road that's just 100% compromised. And that portion sits on a downhill slope where there's maybe a 200-foot drop, and it's on granite rock. So it's just about a 45-degree granite face drop. So someone's going to have to put in a 30 or 40-foot high retaining wall that's about 175 yards long and build up the road with dirt and then road base, or blast your way through solid granite on the uphill side. And both of those are
Mammoth jobs.
They're not small projects. And even worse, there are other places where the road before the washout is undermined so that it's scalloped, and it's maybe only about a 10-foot section, but that part of the road base has been washed away, and the concrete, the asphalt is just kind of hanging in the air.
And I'll say further, there are pieces of the road as you walk up that have very large crevices.
New cracks.
And you would normally not think anything of it, but now you know that that part of the road was meaning to wash away with a little more water. So you don't know how compromised those pieces are.
There are new cracks that run parallel to the downhill side of the road, where the road has slumped only about an inch or so, and it's about a foot in from the edge. Well, that indicates that the hillside is beginning to move down and is taking that leading edge of the first foot or so of the road with it. So anybody with any competence who goes to fix this washout is going to see another 100 or 200 yards of road where there are new cracks, and it looks like it's slumping to the downhill side of the canyon. So I'm not a road engineer. I'm really not even very good with a shovel. We've seen estimates that say it'll be like mid-June or so when they get this lower part of the road fixed. I absolutely do not believe that. It's a huge engineering feat, first of all. And then to get, I mean, they're talking about truckloads and truckloads of fill and dirt to build up the road where no road exists for about 175 yards. Building a 100, 150 yard retaining wall, 30 or 40 feet in the air, or blasting through solid concrete on the uphill, solid granite on the uphill side. So until the county fixes this first washout, the park isn't even going to begin to address the washouts above the road from this washout.
And who knows what those are. While we were there, there was an NPS helicopter that buzzed the area of the washout. But it did not continue up the road. It buzzed the area, kind of looked at the washout, and then went straight back down. So they have their eye on it, but it's not as if they were doing a complete survey. It's like they were checking on that particular washout.
Right.
Or maybe checking on who is, violating the roadblock.
So I was thinking that there was some possibility that we would get up to our cabin this summer, but I'm really not very optimistic about that, having seen just this first washout. Now, if they start working on it tomorrow and it takes them 2 months, God bless them, but there appears to be no activity up there to indicate that anybody's prepping the work site to begin work.
So, signing off, reporting from Mineral King Road, April
29th at the 4 mile mark.
2023.